Hi there, I'm Ilya from TWRAPS, and today we'll be wrapping our 2026 Tesla Model Y Juniper in covered paint protection film. I expect this to take about 8 hours. We'll see in the end. And without further ado, let's get started. So when you receive your wrap, it will come in a box like this. I took it out already, just take it out. You need a flat table. In my case, I'm using 2 Home Depot tables, foldable tables, that I'll be using to open the sheets and spray them before I transfer them onto the car. The next thing I want to cover is the tools we'll be using throughout this installation. I have my slip solution and my tack solution. I highly recommend using an electric sprayer, at least for the slip solution. And for the tack solution, you can use a manual pump. Now, the slip solution is essentially liquid dish soap, clear liquid dish soap, non-covered one, mixed with water in about 1:15 ratio. The tack solution, I'll start with just clean water, and if I'm not getting the tack that I'm looking for, I can mix some 99% IPA, isopropyl alcohol, with the clean water in about 1:3 ratio at the most. Besides this, we'll need a heat gun for the edge folding. I also have glue gun, a microfiber, and a debadging tool to remove the badges on the trunk. This will be my main tool. It's a rubber squeegee that we'll provide. I will also probably use a plastic squeegee, we'll see. And this is also a very important tool. I call it the yellow edge tool. This is what we'll use to tuck in the paint protection film. And I'll get to that in a little bit actually. Diabetic needle to remove bubbles that I missed during the installation. And just in case, this is a primer. It's 3M94 primer. I will use that if I'm folding edges and I need a little bit more tack that I'm getting. Let me mention something about that yellow edge tool that I told you about. Something that you probably don't know about us is that we don't just cut some freely available pattern for the wrap that we found on the internet. This is not how we do it. What we do is that we get the car, we buy the car usually, and we spend months and months developing a wrap for it from scratch. And the reason we do that, there are actually 3 reasons. One is this allows us to iterate that wrap based on feedback. So every customer that installs and gives us some feedback, if we think that affects other people, we'll incorporate it. The other thing is that this allows us to create a wrap that's easier to install than any other on the market, while still giving you almost shop level results, almost as if a shop bulk wrapped this, and this is the kind of job where you're looking to pay like $8,000. And the last reason is that our wraps are designed to not require any disassembly. So for example, these fender flares, or whatever they're called, we're not going to be taking them off. This camera, we're not going to be taking it off. Instead, the wrap is designed to fit so perfectly, and I'll show you throughout the installation how to align it properly so that it fits as intended. It fits so perfectly that we'll just use this tool to tuck it under these components, which you would otherwise need to remove. And this is a huge deal. One, you don't risk breaking anything in removal and reassembly. And 2, it saves a lot of time. If you had to remove your mirrors and cameras and fender flares and light bar and whatnot, it takes a long time. With our wrap, you don't need to do that. And this is why we'll be using this tool a lot throughout the installation. All right, let's begin. I'll clean up the table from the tools. Let's get them out of the way and let's open the wrap. So, a couple of things to mention before the action begins. The wrap is organized into 5 separate sheets. This is for easier management of all the pieces. We also cut it in a very efficient way so that we maximize the use of material. So we are gonna start with sheet number 1. Now, there is a recommended order of installation, and there is a reason behind this order. It has to do with drying times and difficulty, and also the cost of replacing pieces should you need to. As you can probably imagine, the bumper is the hardest piece in this installation, and this will be the very last one we do. It will actually come up on the second sheet due to other components, but we're just gonna skip it on the second sheet. We'll do other things from it. Now, the other thing I need to mention, if that's not obvious, you need to have your car really clean. I've already cleaned ours, and you shouldn't begin installation if the car is not clean. Even when the car has been just cleaned, I cleaned this a few hours ago. Just before you install any panel, I recommend you clean it again with the soapy water and the rubber squeegee. And the reason is that there is dust in the air that sticks on these surfaces, and if you don't get it out and you put the wrap on top, you may see little bumps, which is the dust or whatever dirt you have. So just spray it with the soapy water and clean with the squeegee. The other thing you absolutely should not forget doing is to clean under these panels where the wrap will essentially fold, because you want that to be a clean surface, otherwise it won't stick once you try to fold it. So I'll pop this open and I'll show you this. And the edges I like to clean with just water and a microfiber. So basically anywhere where that wrap is going around the edge needs to be perfectly clean. I'll use the occasion to clean that area of the front fenders for the same reason, now that the hood is open. But this is an important step, don't forget it, otherwise you have issues wrapping around those edges. Now, the first piece I'm going to install is the hood, and before you transfer any piece onto the panel, please clean it. So spray it again, and the reason for that is that this is packed in a carton box. It may release some tiny particles that get stuck on the PPF in transit. You don't want that stuff between your wrap and your paint. It's gonna look ugly, so clean it. Next step, spray again. Again, we're using the soapy water. Most of the time we'll be using the soapy water. And start peeling off. And as you peel off, spray soapy water. Now, the hood being a little bit bigger, I like to do it in 2 parts. So I went halfway through it, put it back, and then do the other half. All right. Now, before I transfer the PPF onto the actual hood, I'll spray the hood one more time. This is with soapy water again. And I'll just carefully transfer. Again, because this is a bigger piece, I like to do it in halves. If you have a helper, obviously that makes it easier, but it's totally doable by a single person as well. Now let's just do some initial alignment here. And now let me talk about something really important here. Once you put that first panel, after each time you refill the slip solution, this is the time you judge if your slip solution is good. If your slip has too little soap, not enough soap, then the film will not be able to do this. Look how I can just move it around. If I didn't have enough soap, it won't move around. It will just stick prematurely. If that happens, go back to your house, put more soap, shake it, come back, peel off, spray the entire thing, um, and test again. But you want the film to move around easily like this. If, on the other hand, it moves around easily, but then you squeegee and it doesn't seem to stick at all, like it's just falling down, then maybe you have too much soap. Go back to your house and dilute your solution, add water, and then maybe just use clean water to dilute it on the PPF. Just spray a little bit here and there to make it stay. Now that we've cleared that, let's do the alignment. So for aligning this, I will need my tack solution, and the way you want to align it is by the edges for this panel. So you essentially want, let me show you a little bit of a close-up, but you want to align this edge and this edge first, and then we'll tack them. Let me show you a close-up. So this is the upper edge, and I'm letting just a little bit of the paint, not on the top surface, but as it like folds around, just a little bit to show. And then when it dries up and we're ready to fold the edges, I'll peel off just a little bit and I'll pull and stretch it over this edge. So because I like my alignment here, I will spray some clean water. This is my tack solution. And the way the tack works is that it essentially removes the soap. It's the soap that prevents the film from sticking. It's not the water. The water prevents a little bit, but it's mostly the soap. And the water in the slip solution is mostly a carrier for the soap. Now I align this. I cleaned the soap with clean water, squeegee it so that you don't have any bubbles, and this should stay. Now I'll do the same on this corner. Good. Now that I've cleared these two, I will want to clear the other two corners. Notice how you can just lift up the PPF and reposition. And these big bubbles that I created, I like to clean to remove these by hand, like this. All right, now that we tacked this so it doesn't move around, I will squeegee in the middle and just start working my way through the entire film. In this process, make sure you're not leaving any bubbles, but don't panic if you later discover that you did leave some bubbles, because they're very easy to remove. Just make sure that they're not too many. It will just take longer. Now I've cleared about 10 inches here in the middle, and now I will squeegee sideways. If the film wants, like for instance, it wants to wrinkle here, I'll just reopen it. At this point, we have enough stability in this film that it won't move around, so it's perfectly okay to reopen the edge. Another thing worth mentioning is that you should never squeegee with the rubber squeegee on a dry film. If the film dries up, but you need to squeegee more, you need to respray it. All right, this looks pretty good, but I like to be thorough, so I'll just respray it and squeegee it one more time, just so that I'm sure that I didn't miss any water or air under the film. This time around, I'm really pressing hard. Now, one thing people ask me about is, what do we do with this? Like, you squeegee it and it reappears. These are called fingers in PPF lingo. They're normal, they're a little bit of pressure. And if they're small, then no issue at all. You handle them once the film is dry. So if they're really small, not a problem. If they're big, you have to take care of them. Another thing that may happen is that, for for instance, I moved some water from here to here. I just didn't see it before, but now it doesn't want to move anymore because this is pretty well squeegeed. If that happens, I'll just reopen and respray and take it out. Let's see if I can get away with just clean water. If not, I'll use the soapy. But it worked fine. Perfect. When you're done, open the hood again. And now you have to clean all of that soap on the edges. Otherwise, the edge folding is going to be really difficult. So I'll just use the clean water and spray. Last but not least, when you spray that clean water, a little bit of it goes under the film here because it's still not dry. So now I'll go with the squeegee to just take it out and not let it seep through these edges. That's it with the hood. Now we just leave it like that, leave it open, let it dry, and move on. Now the next two pieces on the first sheet will be the bottom piece and the top piece of the trunk. We will do the middle piece later. A few notes about that. I'll start with debadging the car. So you totally need to debadge if you're doing covered paint protection film. So I'll start with that. I'll show you how that's done. It's really easy. But the other thing is that I will be essentially doing a lot of the same steps throughout this installation. So we'll probably just cut some of it to make the video shorter. But the principle is the same. You have to clean the surface, just like I did the hood. You have to wet it again with soapy water. Then you have to clean the component and squeegee it out. And then you open it, spray with soapy water, and then you position. So we'll be skipping some of this I showed you with the hood. It's absolutely the same with every single piece. We'll be skipping some of these just to make the video shorter and directly go to show you how it's actually installed. So before I begin installing on the trunk, I need to remove this. And you can either reinstall the same one, but it's tricky because you need to clean the glue from each letter and then put it on like 3M VHB and then cut it to shape, or you can just buy new emblem or go without emblem, up to you. The tools I'll start with are heat gun and a debadging tool. This is essentially like fishing line. So if you have fishing line, you can just use that. I'll use this. And the principle is very simple. You have to heat it and then you can get the fishing line in between the paint and the leather, and then it would fall right off. Don't overdo it. It's better to add heat because if you overdo it, you may actually melt your paint. Don't ask how I know. All right, the badging is gone. Now we just need to clean up. I'll first try rubbing the extra glue with my fingers. Let's see. Let me try something else. If it's too much in certain areas, you can just use this tool to carefully scrape it off. Some heat helps with that. I'm just removing the big pieces of the adhesive before I start using glue gun. But the glue gun is not gonna get through this, so I need to get rid of those. But as you can see, it's pretty easy. Just use a heat gun, use this tool, and in about 10 minutes or less, you're done Now let's use some glue gun on the microfiber and see where that gets us. I'm almost done here. One reminder, after using glue gun on your car, you really need to clean this well, otherwise the PPF won't stick. I would actually apply a little bit of isopropyl alcohol to make sure there is no glue gun here. That's pretty much it. There you have it. This one is ready to be cleaned and then installed. All right, the next piece you want to put is the top piece of the trunk. So on the first sheet you have the top and the bottom, but not the middle. And you want to start with the top so that the water doesn't drain on the bottom when you're doing the top. And for the middle, we'll do that later when the top is fully dried and we fold the edges because they need to meet. So just position it so that it's safe here. And now let me show you in details what to do next. I'll start on one side. In my case, I'm starting on the passenger side. Have your tack solution. And before I tack it, you'd benefit to get a visual idea of where you want this to be. Now notice that this panel and this panel, they don't separate. So when you pop the trunk open, these two stay together. So you want this to be just a little bit over the edge, and you can test it with your squeegee to see how it would look when you fold it. But have in mind that the yellow edge tool won't fit in there. It cannot go in between these two panels, at least not on our Model Y. So you don't want to overlap a lot. You don't want to do like this. Then if you accidentally do this, not only you may gap here, but you may also need to trim with a utility knife. And generally, that's not advisable. I mean, if you can avoid it, avoid it. So let's test a little bit to have a visual idea of where we want this. That looks fine. And you can see this corner here in terms of alignment in this direction. So now that I have a visual idea of where I want it, I will open and clean that soap in all of this area, including on the PPF. Because we really want to tack it here. Have in mind that you can do minor corrections even when it's dry. Let's say you find out, oh, my edge is showing a little bit. That's okay, just open a little bit, even if it's completely dry. It's like tape. Open a little bit, stretch a little bit. It's stretchable. Now, I'll tuck it in here for now, and we will actually pop that trunk open when we're done. And I'll take care. Actually, sorry, we don't need to get in that much. We can just squeegee all the way to the end. Now let's make sure that it also aligns well here. Like this, I think. And now I'll go on the other side. Now this is what it looks like on the other side. And here we'll repeat the same thing. We want to tack it, but notice here is where the trick is. Grab it here in the middle and pull just a little bit. And notice that this will fold just a little bit around the edge, about 1/16 of an inch or about 2 millimeters. So I will position here to the best of my ability, but I'm also putting the film here to get this arch correctly. And if you're wondering why do we have to do this, well, this is to eliminate the pressure from these curves. Okay, let's see if we can make that work. Now I'll need to tack it in the middle so that it doesn't retract. Just open up, spray some clean water. Let's get it out of here. And now pull a little bit. Okay, now we're looking good. And now I'll just pull a little bit here. And here I see that it wants to overlap with this panel. We don't want that, so let's do a little bit of tacking to control where this stays. If you have to peel off, that's okay, you can do that. So as you can see, this is a small piece, but the positioning is a little bit trickier compared to the hood. And that's why we didn't start with this. You will be gaining experience, as I said, throughout the installation. There is a specific intended order of installing this wrap, and it's not there by accident. We didn't just throw it randomly. It's to build up skill as we install this. Now, just like we did with the hood, let's spray the edges with clean water. Don't forget to spray here. You can even run your fingers like that just to make sure the soap is gone. All right, one last squeegee and we let it dry. Perfect. And when we're done with the bottom part, we'll pop the trunk open to basically get a little bit of help from gravity. And this is the third and last piece of the first sheet. Let's position and talk a little bit about the alignment. So I'll begin my alignment with this edge and this edge. And I'll use a little bit of tack just to make it stay. And just the way we align this at the hood, you want to go all the way to the end of the edge. The same principle would apply here. You can go a little bit over if you prefer, that's okay, but you may end up needing to trim a little bit, which is also okay on edges. Okay, now let's squeegee this. And these fingers, as I explained about them earlier, they're normal. When they're so small, they're nothing to worry about. We can still spray some clean water, try to get rid of them. There you go. Now I'll move to the other side and do the same. Now notice that this needs to go under here. So just help it go under. And on the opposite side, I'll tack again, but notice I'm doing just a slight stretch of the film like this to help with the pressure from the curve. It's minimal pressure, so it's also a minimal stretch the way we designed it, but there is a little bit of a stretch, so something to be aware of. As you'll find out later in this installation video, stretching is the way you reduce pressure in paint protection film. For curvy surfaces, like the bumper for example, it's completely unavoidable, but it's nothing to fear so much either. Now, I'll focus on squeegeeing the main, and this I'll do later. All right, for this, I will actually reopen it a little bit, like this, and spray with clean water. Now notice that this clean water is coming down, so we'll still have to remove it. but at least now the film is not moving around. And we will inevitably get some fingers here. But that's okay. Once the film is dry, they'll be very easy to handle. Just make sure that they're tiny, small fingers like these, and nothing bigger than that. Now let's remove the water that we introduced. And by the way, you can totally do this in reverse order. First spray here, so that you don't have to re-squeegee this twice. The reason I did it this way is that if I first spray here, I risk not aligning the other side right. But if you think you can do it, you can give it a shot. If you don't like your alignment, I can reopen the whole thing right now. It's not dry yet, it hasn't cured. So if you don't like something, just reopen it, respray it, redo it. Like for instance, look, I found some water here, but the film is already sticking pretty well here, so it doesn't want to escape. I'll just pop it open and it's done. That is. Alright, I think this is ready. I'll just spray the edges with clean water and we'll let it dry. If the PPF is sticking and it won't open the hood, just open the edges. And when you respray the edges, don't forget to also squeegee. Now just let it dry. All right, now that the first sheet is done, let's open up the second one. So on the second sheet, you have the bumper, but we'll leave the bumper for last because this is the hardest component to install, and let's build up some experience before we tackle that. We have the two front fenders. We have these pillars above the windows or roof lines or whatever they're called. And notice there is a letter P and D, P indicating passenger side, D indicating driver side. And we also have these smaller pillars that are on the trunk. So generally you want to install from top to bottom because of how the water drains down. So I will start with these and then I'll move on to the fenders. As for the smaller ones, we want to install these after we do the edge folding on the top trunk piece so that we can match the edges really nicely because these two, this and the top trunk piece, they're in contact. So let's begin with these. Now notice this, I will get a microfiber, put my squeegee in and spray some water. And I will run this here between the pillar and the weather strip to make sure it's clean, because it's not. And the PPF will go there and we need it to be clean. This thicker side is the front. Now let's just position it roughly so that it stays stable. All right, for the next step, you want to get your tack solution, which is just water in my case. And again, we will want to have a visual idea of what is it that we're doing. I will lower the hood to be out of the way, and I'll be looking at this to be aligned and this. I will test it with my squeegee. Now this one we want to go a little bit deeper inside so that we have a nice wrap around this edge. And I will be mindful to align properly here. Now the proper alignment here would be that the film will be touching this top plastic trim. Okay, something like this is what I'm going for. So spray with clean water. Okay, let's give that a shot. See if we like it. And if you don't like it, you can just peel off and redo it. Yeah, I kind of like it. I'll give it some more clean water. And now I'll just lead the rest of the film on this this plastic trim. Okay. Now let's go to the other side, and I will want to do the same thing here. Make sure that the film is relatively well positioned throughout the entire length of this peeler, and we want to stretch just a little bit. That eliminates the pressure. Notice that it's intentionally cut shorter about here, so we want to stretch a little bit. We will also want to go a little bit over that edge so that we can fold it around. All right, now I'll just pull the film to its proper position, and we'll just start squeegeeing here. And by the way, if it's not staying, if it's too slippery, open it in a few places and spray with clean water. We'll just tack it along the way. Okay, I think I'm done, so I'll just go ahead and make sure that all the water is out. I will re-inspect the entire length of my installation also to make sure I'm not missing anything, because it gets harder to fix when it becomes dry. Now I will run my squeegee in between the film and the plastic trim to make sure my edging looks fine, and make some final adjustments before I let it dry. And have in mind that once it's dry, we can use the yellow edge tool to properly tuck it in wherever necessary. All right, I think I'm just about done with this. I'll go install the same thing on the other side now. Next up, let's tackle the fenders. I already cleaned these edges when I was cleaning the hood, but I want to show you something else that you shouldn't skip on these fenders. So the first thing is spray here. Just make sure that this is clean, because here we'll get some pressure and we would really want this film to stick there when it dries up. But the other thing is to clean some more edges. I'll put my squeegee in and I'll go here under the headlight, just making sure that it's clean, and open the door and clean this edge on the inside as well. Now the edges themselves I'll spray with clean water, and I will keep that door a little bit ajar, maybe like this. Now spray with soapy water. When peeling the film, be careful around the cutout for the camera so you don't rip it. And now let's position. The way you want to begin this is first just there on top of the panel, but then the initial positioning will happen here, and making sure that this is also okay. So you would want to tuck here a little bit. And then let's focus on this area. Now, as I said, our pattern does not require that you remove the camera, so that's good. But you will need to tuck the film under. Notice that the cutout is intentionally smaller, so I'll grab it on one side, tuck in, then let's use the squeegee to tuck in here, pull a little bit on the other side to get it under that camera. There you go. There you go. Now let's clear some of that pressure. The less pressure, the better. I don't want to squeegee it just yet. I just want it to be more even. Now I will align by the fender flare, and notice that we'll be using the edge tool here to tuck it under the fender flare, so it needs to overlap a little bit. But before I do that, I'll give it some clean water. Actually, first let me squeegee this, and then I will use some clean water. I'll spray it on the bottom here and on the panel, and I will align this curve. Again, I want this to overlap on the fender flare a little bit, and then I'll pull slightly to reduce the pressure that we're getting here. Let's give it a little bit of tack on these edges so that it doesn't pull back. And now I'll spray some water here to help me with this pressure. It's not much. I think I can handle it after, but still, let's do it now. And of course, in this process, the water goes in, so we'll have to take it out. Let's spray a little bit here. Now notice that this will stick when the film is dry, and we'll heat it a little bit with a heat gun. So for the time being, I'm not worried about it. Now I just want to eliminate all that water and make sure that we don't have too much pressure around that camera. All right, now that this is done, let's pull the film a little, make it as flat as possible. And the next step would be to pull here. Notice how much pressure there is, but now notice when I pull, it goes away. And that's the reason we're going to be pulling. We will want to tack here, clear most of that soap. And now let's pull and align the corner. Now notice that this would be a harder pull than the previous ones, and that's normal, because there is a lot of pressure there, but it's still really easy to do. So you want to start squeegeeing here. Don't squeegee here, leaving any pressure there. So we'll do this in multiple iterations. I pull, the pressure goes away, I squeegee, I let it go, some of the pressure comes back. That's normal. Also notice that as I'm squeegeeing from here, I'm moving soapy solution that's under the film here, I'm moving it forward, which means that I will need to respray this, because notice this used to be just water, and now you can see the soap as well. Next up, we'll do a similar pull over here, but much smaller pull. I just want to take care of this pressure. Now notice that because of the pulling, and everyone will do it differently every single time they install, you will have a slightly different looking fender, but what you're looking for is that this line should be properly aligned. This should be properly aligned. For example, I see that I barely have enough to fold here, so I'll get my tack, spray a little bit, and just pull slightly to give me a little bit more material here. And I wouldn't worry about these fingers. They're very easy to tackle, these small fingers here. They're very easy to tackle later. I'll still spray them now. To do the best I can right now. But just saying, they're not something to worry about. Now I see too much overlap. Actually, it's overlap with the bumper, so I don't want that because I'll need to trim it later. So I will adjust that. To the best of my ability at the moment. And if I need to trim, I'll trim. Again, every time you install this, it will be slightly different. Now, because that creates pressure in the rest of the film, I'll have to reopen a little bit to distribute that pressure. Okay, I think this is a much better state. Go over it one more time, make sure you're not leaving bubbles here. And let's wash the edge here. And another thing I like to do on the fender is, after it's been a while since I made this pull, I'll recheck this corner. Let me show you what this edge is supposed to look like. So you want this V cut out. Let me show you. To be kind of like this, so that when you fold around, the two sides of the V fold on the two edges. Now, notice that once this dries up, I'll probably peel off just a little bit, like this much, and pull to conform to that shape. But this is your general position here. Again, small adjustments will be made later when this is dry and we're folding the edges. The next thing I'll try to install are the smaller peelers on the trunk. But before I do so, I will try to tuck these edges here if they're dry. In my case, it's hot. It's over 80 degrees in my garage. So they tend to dry really quickly. If yours are not dry, you can still attempt an install, or you can just move on to sheet 3 and do this later. So use the yellow edge tool to tuck in the edge here. And then we will fold this. And it's as simple as that, actually. Remember to also clean the edges. And now position this piece in a way that it would also fold a little bit on this edge, not too much, just a little bit. You want to tack this, and test with your squeegee what the folding looks like. You want it to look nice. And now on the opposite end, tack again and align the edges. Give it a little pull. Test your edge alignments. And now here, to allow easier drying, I'll just peel off a little bit and don't tuck it in, not yet, so that it can dry nicely. And we'll tuck in later. As simple as that for this one. At this point, we're done with sheet 2. I will leave the bumper for last, so I'll just open the next sheet on top of the bumper. All right, here we have the 2 front doors and the middle piece of the trunk. I'll start with the doors because I want to give the trunk a little bit more drying time before I can fold the edges there and have the top piece completely done, and actually the bottom as well. I'll fold both before I install this. So let's earn a little bit more drying time by starting with the doors. So once you transfer the door, you need to do the alignment. And a few points about the alignment. Make sure that on this side, if you look at the film closely, it kind of changes angle here. So this is around where that door ends. And then you have to be careful around this plastic trim. So you want the film to go slightly under without overlapping. Now I'll squeeze a little bit just so that the film doesn't move so much. Also check your alignment here around the mirror. Check the door handle. Now notice that the cutout is smaller than the door handle because it will fold around a little bit on the inside of this door handle opening. Now I'll get a little bit of tack solution here just to prevent the film from dropping due to gravity. But again, your alignment is now after the initial positioning. After that, everything else should just fall into place. I'll check my corners, they look fine. Other than, just doing the alignment right, especially around this plastic trim, this door is really easy. It's really quick to install. Make sure to get the water here at this curve. It wants to stay there, so be aware of that. And now, during my prep, because my door was open and I forgot to close it after installing the fender, I had to tuck in carefully the PPF of the fender so that the door doesn't rip it off. So now I'll not forget this time and I'll tuck it in. And the reason we're tucking in is so that we can later open that door and work on these edges without ripping the paint protection film if it's sticking to the neighboring panel. At the moment, don't worry about this, it will stick when it's dry. Now let's open this carefully. Now let's spray these edges with clean water. And this one will access by opening the door. Push that water out, and we will leave it to dry and do finishing touches all around when it's dry. By the way, let me show you a technique to align this properly, more close up. So I have my initial alignment, but the film is still moving around. Notice this. So once you have that initial alignment, you can just push slightly so that the film goes under that trim. And when it starts bulging like this, maybe you need to retract a little bit. And always be mindful of how that push changes the alignment in other places. Most notably, I would say the door handle. You want to have enough to fold around. If it turns out that, for example, you have a little bit more on one side than the other, it's okay. We can trim it later if necessary, if it doesn't stick when we fold it. But you really want to get this part right. Otherwise, the wrap will just look weird. But it's very easy, so just push slightly, use the squeegee like this to tell where it goes, and I'll use a little bit of tack to help it stay there. Before I proceed to installing the middle piece of the trunk, now is the time to fold these edges. If I don't do this now and install the middle piece, all that water will go into places and then I'll have to take care of it. So it's extra work. If this is not dry, just skip that middle piece for now, do it later. I think mine is dry already and I'll test. So I'll be using the plastic squeegee on the soft side, the felt side. So let's just start folding. I will score the edge with my finger here. If you have little bubbles towards the edges, just peel off gently and reapply. And this is really easy, really straight lines, no significant curves, so there will be minimal, if any, heat gun use. So you first want to score the edge like this. Be that with a squeegee or a finger, but you want that edge to look really clean. If you just fold without scoring the edge, you're likely to get some air trapped at the very end of the edge. Let's tackle this. For hard to reach places, use the yellow edge tool. Now let me show you the technique of finishing these edges here. So you want to grab a little bit of the film on both sides like this, and you want to heat it with a heat gun. Notice that it becomes really soft, and then I will pull one side and fold around, and then I'll pull the other side and fold. If you don't like it, you can always reopen. I use a vinyl weeding tool like this to reopen. Let me show that as well. And you can repeat. Now notice that if you repeat too many times, the glue may wear off and you may need to use primer. There, much better. When you have a curve like this, by the way, for small ones, we didn't add pressure relief cuts, and this is a very small one. So start the folding on the curve and then go on each side of it like this. Now this piece should be really easy. Just make sure that there is no air or water. Score the edge like this and just keep doing the scoring motion like this and just go down until it sticks. Let's see if I can also fold here. Maybe it's still wet. Again, score the edge. This part is still wet, likely because I was recently spraying here to install these. So I will fold whatever doesn't resist too much, and I'll do the rest later. Now use the yellow edge tool. There is a weather strip here. Essentially you have to put the yellow edge tool under that weather strip so that the paint protection film can tuck under the weather strip. It's easier with this side. Just put it against the weather strip. Let me see if I can show you a close-up. So insert the yellow edge tool under the weather strip and just go like that. And this assures that the film is under the weather strip. Yeah, and this part doesn't stick. It's still wet, so just leave it. Now that the edges are tucked in and folded, it's safe to spray in this area without reintroducing water to panels that we already installed. So just clean this, wet. I'll position this on one side. Notice that the geometry of this piece is such that it makes an arch. The arch goes upwards. Grab your tack solution. And let's align. Notice this cutout. This is where your edge should be. And the film will wrap just a little bit around under this edge. Something to be aware of. And make sure that you don't leave a gap on top as well. Now, you have two approaches to installing this piece. One is to try to match the lines perfectly. It looks really smooth if you achieve it. It's a little bit more time consuming. I'll give it a shot. My expectation is that in the end, in some places they will match perfectly, in other places I'll miss by a little bit. That's fine. Alternatively, if you want, you can just overlap intentionally a little bit. That also works. Notice that these overlaps are something we can trim later. It's not the safest thing in terms of like we may actually end up creating a gap. Actually, I see I am already creating a gap here. So you know what? I'll just play it safe. And I'll overlap intentionally just a little bit. Now you want to tack the same way on the other side, and in the process we'll stretch a little bit. Next up, I will check my alignment here, and I'll make sure that I'm either overlapping a little bit or going by the edge. As I said, I will overlap a little bit because it's simpler, and for me at least it doesn't bother me, and we might actually end up putting a spoiler later on this car, which will pretty much hide all of that. Now if you get pressure like that, don't worry, just reopen it, take care of it. check that you have material to fold on the bottom edge as well. If you don't, you have to lower this a little bit. Recheck for gaps. If you find any, now is the time to correct them. Just open, pull a little bit, and re-squeeze. And now I'll just inspect for bubbles, if there are any. Now is a good time to take care of those. Notice that bubbles are really easy to remove with the diabetic needle. And I'll show you, because I'll certainly have a few, even post-installation. I'll show you how easy it is to remove them. So while I really want to minimize the number of bubbles now, all I'm saying is that you shouldn't panic if you do end up with some bubbles here and there. All right, and we'll tuck this in once it's dry. For now, I'll just spray with clean water. We are entirely done with sheet 3. And I'll open sheet 4 now. As a reminder, there are 5 sheets, but we are keeping that bumper as last. All right, so sheet 4 and sheet 5 are identical but mirrored. One is passenger side, indicated by the letter P here, and the other one is driver side. So here we have the rear door, the rear quarter, that thing, whatever that's called, that's like on the bottom side of the rear bumper. And we have the mirrors. We give you 2 sets of mirrors, just in case, you know, because they could be tricky. I don't think they are, but you know, it gives you an extra, just in case. The last sheet is identical just for the driver's side. And the next thing I will be installing is the rear door. And then we'll do these 2, and lastly, the mirrors. Now, for the rear door, notice that you have very clear alignment points on top. So basically, you want these to go around the door trim. And just like the front door, you need to align the top edge to go slightly under the trim. So I'll use the same principle of just slightly pushing the entire piece of the film up until it won't go in anymore. Let's check the door handle. The door handle alignment tells me I need to go a little bit to the left. And I'll use a little bit of tack here so that the film doesn't slip down. And a little bit tack here, because there is a little bit of a curve that creates pressure. Okay, let's squeegee one more time. Recheck all of your points. Here, 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 that line, the door handle. Recheck everything, because if there are any issues, now would be the time to correct them. To reopen, respray, and reapply. All right, and now I will open this. and rinse the edges. This panel I already cleaned together with the door, so now I'm just wetting and installing. The alignment on this one begins here on top, and just like any other place that has these plastic trims, you will want this to tuck in a little bit to give you a nice complete look of the wrap. Now tack it on top. Now let's take away some of that pressure by hand, like this. If it's sticking prematurely at places, you can peel off the squeegee. If necessary, you can also respray. Now the next point I want to do is here. I'll tack it here and here at the bottom. And to assure that this is a nice edge, I will pull from the bottom. Again, reminder, this is supposed to overlap a little bit with the fender flares. This is the plastic trim here above the wheels. We will tuck this in later. Okay, so first you do this line, then you do this one, and next up, let's arrange it here around this reflector. We'll do a little bit of a push to ease off the pressure. Now I'll tuck this in here just to make sure that my alignment is good. Now I'll apply a bit of tack solution here, and we will pull to eliminate all of that pressure. Now when pulling, have this corner in mind. You'll see the pressure relief cut for the edge. Okay, let's try this and see if we'll get it right. And then the edge tool is very easy to insert here, so you can give it a little bit more overlap on this side, but I find it a bit harder to insert on the bottom. You can still insert, but not too deep. So on the bottom, you want to reach the edge of the neighboring panel, but don't really overlap it. Now you will be getting some pressure here, so that's okay, as long as it's a little bit like me. We'll take care of that once it dries up. I think pretty much the last place I need to tack is here. All right, for this piece, this is a bit trickier because there will be some pulling to clear the pressure. So the alignment here begins on top, and we'll tack it. So let's align it nicely. Test those edges. Yeah, that's perfect. Then as a next step, I'll tack here at the bottom. Essentially, I want to pull this to eliminate that pressure. Now for this pull, you want this to overlap with the fender flare, but you don't want it to overlap with this plastic trim, because in there you can't really get the yellow edge too. Now we'll tack here at this corner and pull in the process to get the remaining pressure out. Basically what I'm trying to do now is to eliminate as many of those fingers as I can. So that I can let it dry that way. If I can fix all of the fingers all the way to the edge, I'm golden. Okay, this is looking pretty good. Now, one thing that is important is, and it's also a little bit counterintuitive. Now, that edge that you finished here, you need to open it. And the neighboring edge as well. The reason is that we need these to dry so we can tuck them one after the other. If we leave them like that, they will dry on top of each other and it's gonna be more hassle to separate them so we can tuck them in properly. So let's open them like this, so that once it's dry, I can just go like this and peel this off so I can tuck the other one in. And by the way, in that process, I see that this is a little bit low, so I'll just adjust it right now. And the way you do that is that you peel off some excess and you pull, because paint protection film is stretchable. Generally, if you have more time to do this installation, I would generally recommend that you first finish this, let it dry, fold the edges, or this, doesn't matter, one of the two, and then you do the other one. They come together on the sheet, so just to follow the sheets, I'm showing you how to do it. If you want to be done faster, but if you do have more time, doing this individually with proper dry time would be a little bit easier. Okay, now it's ready to dry. Now the only thing left on sheet 4 is the mirrors, but I don't want to do the mirrors now because that would reintroduce water around the fender and the door, and these are almost dry. I don't want to re-wet them. So what I will do is that I will install the rear door and quarter on the driver's side. I'll leave the mirrors, and once I'm done with that, I'll actually start folding edges. It's that time. And when we're done folding as many edges as we can, drying permitting, we'll then do the mirrors when the fenders and the front doors are cleared. Then we'll do the mirrors, and last we'll do the bumper. All right, folks, I have everything placed except the mirrors and bumper, the front bumper. Before I do this though, I want to see what edges I can fold because I've been working on this for some 6 hours now, and it's 80 plus degrees in my garage. So chances are a lot of this stuff is ready to be folded. Now, I should emphasize this, it greatly depends on your slip solution, on the ambient temperature, on how well you squeeze it. So you be the judge of that. Don't assume that you can absolutely edge wrap at this point. If you touch the edges and you feel moisture, they're not ready yet. So my advice is wait, fold edges, and then finish the remaining pieces. So let me see what we can do and we'll take it from there. I will begin with the hood and I will score with my finger at the edge so that we have a nice clean edge, and then just fold around and press. So edge folding requires some decent amount of pressing and applying force at the edge. Otherwise it may lift up or you might trap air. Here at the corner, first fold one side, then pull and fold the other. Again, score. Make sure the top is free of bubbles. Yeah, these are folding very easily. Notice that we design our cut patterns in a way that you get a little bit more edge folding than even if you go to a wrap shop. So the wrap shop will generally slice around here. We go a little bit more because in my experience this is more DIY friendly. It gives you more surface area to stick and therefore less chance of lifting up. All right, let's see if we can tackle those fenders. I'll actually first need to do the roof line here. Let me grab my squeegee and edge tools. If you have some tiny bubbles near the edge, just peel off a little bit. Okay, now we have some weather strip to clear here. Maybe with this tool. There you go. Now don't go all the way to the end. I'll show you how to handle the end. And use the yellow edge tool to tuck this under the headlights. Notice that it wants to stick on the headlights, so you have to clear that. And once it's there, just use the squeegee to kind of go under and make it stick. Again, don't go all the way to the end just yet. Now I missed a tiny bubble here. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but it's here. And let me show you how to handle this. Use the diabetic needle to poke it and you're done. Now get the yellow edge tool in between the plastic trim and the body panel so you can tuck the film just like that. As I told you in the beginning, there is no need to disassemble anything. I see some bubbles left over here. Whatever is left, I'll just take care of it. If it's not close to the edge, don't peel off too much, as you can damage the PPF and actually introduce more bubbles in the process. Instead, I'll just use the diabetic needle. And here, I don't know if you can see this, but as soon as I started squeegeeing, there is moisture. So obviously this is not gonna stick right now, but I'm not gonna bother with it anymore right now. As I explained, what I'm doing right now is opportunistic. I don't know if everything is dry, but whatever I can fold, I will. And whatever refuses to fold right now, I'll just leave it for later until it dries up. This also doesn't stick, meaning that it's wet. Let's see if we're look here around the fender flare. Yeah, there is quite a bit of moisture still around here, so I'll just leave that for now. Let's check out the other fender. Same principle. Also moisture here, same as the other side, so this will be finished later, although I see less moisture here than on the other side. But I told you, this thing with the drying times and moisture, it's a bit unpredictable, so you be the judge of whether you can fold or not yet. Now, as far as finishing these edges, remember I told you we don't go all the way to the end here with the edge folding, because we have a little bit of work. This is how we do it. Peel off about, say, 2 inches, and then pull so that you conform to the edge and fully cover the front of the edge. And now you can fold. You may need a heat gun if it's not sticking well. But this is the principle of doing this fold. All right, let's see if we can fold the edges and finish these peelers or roof lines, whatever they're called. I have a little bit of moisture near the end, so I'll reopen this. It's not ready to fully stick, but still I'll do what I can. Now, this fender, as I mentioned earlier, seems to be more dry than the other. So I will try to fold this edge, which would clear the way to folding the edges of this door. And if I'm able to fold the edges on this door, I can do the mirror. Okay, this part is still wet. Let's see about the very edge. The very edge on the outer side of this door is dry. So again, same principle, score the edge, and fold at the curves first, and then just fold around, squeeze it well. Now let's tackle this part. I have a few bubbles here, which at this point I think I'll try to take with the needle. I also seem to have misaligned here a little bit, so I'll have to trim this in a moment. Let me just handle this edge and the bottom edge, and I'll do these little imperfections after that. Now the way I expect to be able to access this edge is if I open the door and access it from the inside. Okay, let's see the result. It's looking good. I have a bubble. Now I'll continue with the edge folding after I fix this. Let me see if I can tuck it in. Yeah, it's a little bit higher than it should have been. And I'll just gently trim with a utility knife. There you go. Perfect. All right, next up are the mirrors. Given that I folded the edges of the front doors and front fenders, now that I'll be spraying here, that will not affect my wrap beneath. So we'll clean, then spray. And the first piece you want to install is this one. It goes over here. And notice that this is intentionally bigger. The reason is that we will want to pull, after it's dry, to pull and wrap around the corner on the other side. And then we'll have to trim. So I will align this and squeegee. And your alignment is here for the bottom and here. Now for this, I'll need some tack. All right, now the other part is a single piece. Let's position, and and this one we will align here. So we start the alignment at the bottom here around this edge, not on the other side. On the other side it's sticking out because we'll be pulling to reduce the tension, and then folding around and trimming. This is pretty much the only mandatory trim for this installation. Now do your best to align this top edge properly. And once you've done the alignment, you can peel this off so that it can dry, so that this and the other piece can dry, and then we'll fold them. Now on the opposite side, you want to tack. And pull to eliminate this pressure here at the bottom. I might need to tack some more. Now for the top part, we will tack here and pull a little bit, but here comes the tricky part. You need to align this properly so that you don't create pressure here, but when it dries up, you can fold and it would cover all of the paint. So do a test run with a squeegee like this to have an idea of where you want the film to be, and then pull gently. We might need to tack here. All right. And the other thing is that you want these two pieces to either connect to the line or overlap, but you don't want them to gap. So make sure you do your positioning properly. Test again with the squeegee, see where it will end up. I wouldn't worry too much about it here at the end, because we can always just peel off a little bit at the edge. And then let's squeegee. Let's tack a little bit here. And now pull. This is where the excess becomes useful. And squeegee as far as you can. I'm gapping a little bit here at the bottom, so I'll fix that now. Take the water out and now just let it dry and we'll finish it later. Just for the mirrors, I'll show both sides in full, because I know they can be a little intimidating. So we're aligning on the other side so you can see what it looks like from this side. See how much leftover we have. And again, we will align here. Now let's tack on the opposite side so we can stretch. By the way, it's okay to go a little under this edge. You can tuck it in later. There is some dirt on my mirror. I think it's a glue from our previous wrap. So I'm just taking this out. And by the way, if you happen to have dirt under your PPF, just open it up and spray with clean water, rub it off with your finger, and it comes out. Take your time with this alignment. It's not difficult, but you just want to do it correctly, and it may take peeling off a few times, as you can see me doing it. Also, make sure to give it enough stretch here so that this edge can reach the next one. All right, and now I'll just make sure these are open so they can dry, and I will let it dry while I tackle the front bumper. Well, folks, the time has come for the front bumper. That is the last piece, and then we'll do some more edge folding and some fixes here and there. I'll show you all that, but this is the last piece. So as a reminder, it's a good idea to clean it, just because dirt may have fallen on it. And this is big. If you have a helper, now would be the time to ask them to help you so that you can safely transfer this onto the bumper. I'll be doing it myself, so I'll show you this technique. With helper, it's just a set of extra hands, which makes it easier, but it's very similar process. So the first thing I want to do is have it all wet with soapy solution on the sticky side. Be careful to not rip it off here. It's very easy. Do notice though that we have a pressure relief cut here, so that's not you ripping it off. It's intended to be there, but just saying, be careful around this. So if you remember, I used similar technique for the hood, where I would do half, put it back, and then I'll spray the other half. Basically, when you reach here, stop, peel the other piece, again when you reach here, stop, and then make sure to lift these together and hold here so you don't rip it. All right, now let's put it back. And I will go clean my bumper now. Before you begin the installation, there is one more thing you need to do. You need to remove this tow hook cover. You press around 1 and 3 o'clock, and then remove these wires, put them back inside in a way that you can find them after that, and put this aside. We'll wrap this separately. The actual transfer. This is where you can really use the help of someone. But since I'm doing it alone, I'll do this. I'll put it on the hood. I know the hood is clean. And I will work on just sliding it down from here without touching the ground. And please do notice that there is a stretch here, meaning that you should not expect both sides to automatically align. So aim for one side to align. We'll start working on that side, and then the other side will stretch to get all the way to the end. This is the only way to clear the curve of the bumper. Now let's position the height. You want this to tuck under the light bar. And at this point, I'll give it a shot to start the actual installation. Let's see what happens. So I'm beginning on the passenger side, and I'll tack here. Again, the film needs to overlap with the fender flare. The next place I will tack is here at the bottom. And I'll have to pull to eliminate that pressure. And I want to leave this area intact so that I can position this properly in a way that it will fold around nicely. So just stack here on top and here on bottom. Leave this for now. Now let's tuck in here, and we want to position this under the headlights, the light bar, as I said. And now tuck a little bit here. And now I want to pull the film so that it gives me enough to fold around. See, that's not enough. That's better. Let's test the folding. We can use a little bit more here. Now let's position here. Actually, for that part now, I'll need to go stretch on the other side. So when doing this stretch, try to have the film tucked under the light bar. And it will want to move upwards. We will adjust that later. Okay, this side looks good. Now let's position the height of the film. Just pull down. And notice how it automatically conforms to this shape. This is because of the stretching. Now, the way you know that you're at the right height is to look here where the camera is and basically pull the film down until it reaches, you see there is like a plastic trim housing for the camera. You see the cutout there, and it will make sense when you see it. You may want to tack it to stop it from going back up. And here, again, look on the bottom, make sure the film goes all the way to wrap the painted plastic. Let's take out some of that water. Have in mind that for this one, you really need to have the proper slip solution. If the film is not moving around like this, but it's sticking, you need to add more slip. You need to add more soap to your slip. Might need to reopen here. Take care of this. Got a piece of dirt here that I'll try to get out. Also notice that at this point it's possible that the film is becoming less slippery. This is because it's already drying. A lot of that water is now gone. So if that's causing issues like wrinkles and you can't work with the film, you may need to reopen sections of it and respray with your slip solution. All right, the hard part is pretty much over. Let's do the finishing touches. Now, let's run that bottom piece along the bottom edge. We don't want this to fold around on the bottom. stuck in here. Take all of that water out. And now for the last piece, I will tack here at the end. And notice that you have to do a slight stretch. And the other thing to notice is that you don't want to position it along this edge. You want it actually to go above it so that it can wrap around. But of course, also be mindful when these wrap, will they meet or you have a gap. If you're having a gap, lower down a little bit this piece. You shouldn't, but just saying, in case you went too far up. In my case, I actually went too far down. There you go. I hope that at this point of the video, because we are almost at the end of this installation, you're starting to get the hang of how paint protection film behaves, that you spray slip to make it move around and squeegee easily, you spray tack to make it stay, you stretch to reduce pressure at curves, and you let it dry and then fold around. It's pretty simple actually. Once you get the hang of it, it's pretty simple. Now I will spray here. I want this to tack at the bottom. And it's best to leave this open like this so that it can dry up before we do the folding. Now let's do the same thing here. Remember, avoid squeegeeing on dry PPF, just wet it. And one thing that may not be actually clear from the video is that I'm pushing with this hand. I'm doing the stretch actually with this hand, and this one is just navigating. And one last thing before we just let this dry is let's cut this open. I'll just slice like this, and I can remove a little bit. Don't go near the edge. You will want to fold this, but later. So give it about 1/4 of an inch to the edge. And we can do some fine tuning later. But for now, let's slice it to have that extra place to push water if we need to, and to dry. And finally, let's install this little circle. There's so much water here, I'll just grab a little bit and I'll center it. For this, I will need clean water. It's just too small. Now, notice that this is not exactly a circle, it's an ellipse. So there is a direction to it. It's not super important, but just saying. And just leave it to dry. All right, so all the panels are now installed, and I left our Model Y to dry overnight, because before I do the final edge folding on all panels, I really need this to be dry. So let's start folding the edges, fixing the small issues, and be done. So I'll begin with the mirrors. First, let's make it stick edge to edge. Peel this off a little bit to make sure that the bottom piece has sealed edges. It's looking good. And then I generally prefer to do most of the edge folding with fingers, not squeegee. So let's see how that works out. And when you get some pressure like this, you can use a heat gun to make the heat gun makes the paint protection film softer and stickier. Perfect. Let's fold here at the bottom. And now this. So I'll first want to make sure that the bottom piece, this one, is sticking all the way to the top. And then let's make the top piece fold around this edge. For that, I'll use the heat gun. So for this corner, I would still use the heat gun, but I'll peel off and pull a little bit to take this curve. Otherwise, it would wrinkle. Same here, if you're getting too much pressure, heat gun and pull just a little bit. Now, let's do this side. And here, you want to fold around the edge. You need to do a little bit of stretch to clean the pressure at the curve. Mark where the edge is and just use a utility knife with a new blade to trim it. Same goes for this part. Notice that if I just fold, I get this pressure, these wrinkles, so I have to pull and fold. And here I'll do a little bit of heating. Now this is admittedly the trickiest part. Now I see that I have an overlap here and a lot of pressure. So instead of trying to tackle this pressure, what I'll do instead is to remove that overlap. And notice that for you, it may turn out different. For what it's worth, for the other side, it may turn out different. It's whenever pulling and pressure are involved, it turns out different every time. Now, if you don't want to see this overlap, you can carefully cut. Make sure to cut on the, so that you have essentially 2 layers of paint protection film. So very gently. And if you don't like your result, you can always reinstall. As I said, we provide 2 sets of these. I personally generally wouldn't cut it because I'm not, I don't know, I don't have the best cut technique, I suppose. So my edge is kind of uneven. But just to demonstrate, if you wanted to cut, what was the principle? Cut where there are 2 layers of PPF so you don't scratch your paint. But that's generally how we do the mirrors. Now I'll do the other side, but I'll probably skip the cutting. Next up, I'll see if I can finish the fender because that was still wet yesterday, and let's see if it's completely dry now. Okay, so unfortunately this part still has some water. It takes longer to dry because of the fact that it has no place to escape it. We essentially have to wait for it to evaporate. I don't know if you can see that, but as soon as I pushed it, some water came out. So this part is not ready. Let's see about this. At least this is completely dry. And by the way, if you stick the edge and it comes back up, it's either still wet or it's too cold and you need to warm it up with a heat gun. And for this edge, you can just use the yellow edge tool. Remember to score your edges with your finger. Now, when you reach the end here, I recommend using a little bit of heat gun. But let me clear this edge first so that I have better access. And notice that here on the window, you will want to separate the PPF from the window first and then tuck it in with the squeegee. Now I'll start at this curve and go sideways. So start at the curve and go sideways. It's a bit tricky area to access. You have to clear a weather strip that's on the sunroof to get this to stick. Notice that paint protection film does not stick on silicone and rubber and such. So essentially what I'm doing, it's going to be hard to show on camera, is that I'm using the sharp end of the yellow edge tool to lift up the weather strip and allow the paint protection film to fall behind that weather strip. It's a bit time consuming, but it's easy. All right, let's do this. Essentially, I'll just go through the entire installation now and fold all the edges. And then I'll go one more time to check for small issues that I see. And notice what I'm doing here. I warm it up and then I'll pull and stick. And you want to do this to make it conform to the edge. Let's do the door handles. So for this, I need to be able to open the door handle. And I have a little bit of bubbles here, which I'll try to tackle by peeling off. There is more moisture here though. I don't know if there's quite a bit of moisture actually. I don't know if I'll be able to do this right now, but let's try. Now I'm just tucking under the door handle as much as I can so I can warm up the film and fold it. Okay, so for this part, maybe I'll benefit opening the door handle. Yeah, but there is a lot of moisture here. It's not sticking at all. So this part will wait. Let's see if we can do this part instead. So on this side, that will happen at least on some of your door handles. On this side, I went a little bit more to this side, so I have a little bit of PPF that's not sticking because it has nothing to stick to. So just carefully slice it off. Let's see if we can evaporate this water here. Maybe we get lucky, I don't know. I can still fit it at the end, so I'll leave the very end for a little bit later. Now for this part, make sure your car is in car wash mode, because if this opens, it may rip off the film. I'm holding it because I remembered that as I was working on it, but maybe you remember it before that. And then I'll still need to open it when I took the paint protection film under, so that I can fold around on the inside of the charge port. Still some retained moisture here, so I'll just wait for that. But I should be able to do these edges very easily. And notice that these fingers that we had, once they're dry, they're easy to tackle. Now, in some cases, if you have a more excessive finger, it may want to wrinkle. So if that's what you're getting, the way to handle this is open around it and give it space to dissipate that pressure. Now I'll leave it at the end because I still need to finish that. All right, let's tackle this. So for this, I'll need to peel off. And I'll first fold the bottom panel. Unfortunately, I have some moisture here, so these areas where the film is not fully exposed, they're trickier to dry. So I'll give that a little bit more time, revisit a little bit. In the meantime, let's fold this. So again, score the edges, clear any tiny bubbles you may have on the edge. And let's see, I'll begin here actually. And then let's do the other piece. It seems that I did not position this perfectly. So now I'm getting a bit of excess paint protection film here. I'll try to tuck it in. If that doesn't work, I'll just have to slice it. Well, that seemed to have worked. All right, let's see what else we can do here to get these panels near completed. Now, notice that to tuck this in, you need to separate it from the neighboring panel. Otherwise, it will not work. Well, I went a little overboard here, so I'll have to gently slice because I have a little bit too much. Again, that's a risk with stretching. It's very hard to get it perfect all the time, but just have a utility knife handy and you can slice off the excess protection film. Hopefully I did it better on the other side. We'll find out soon enough though. And notice that when I'm cutting, I'm cutting over the other paint protection film so that I don't risk scratching the car. Now I have a few bubbles here which I'll handle with the needle. And by the way, these are about the toughest edges for the entire installation. So this is gonna be as bad as it gets. Once you do this, everything else is simpler. All right, this is done. Let's do the top. For the top, you will want to start at the curves here and just go sideways. And the rest should actually fall in place much easier than what we already did. Now I'll gently grab the PPF and pull a little bit to clear this, to clear the edge. And then just keep scoring, but a little bit deeper every time. One thing you're doing with the scoring thing is that if you do it repeatedly, you actually warm up the paint protection film. And as I mentioned earlier, when you warm it up, it becomes softer, more conforming to shapes, and stickier. Now let's finish the work here. I'll fold these edges and I'll do the same on the other side before I close the trunk to finish this. All right, with most of the wrapping work done, I closed the trunk. Let me do some fixing here. Now that I close it, I see some bubbles. And now let's do these edges here. Let me see what would happen if we just push. No, I have a little bit more overlap, so in that case I will peel off one a little bit so I can tuck in the one under. And then do like this. At this point I can finish this as well. If you remember earlier in the video, this was still wet. Now it no longer is, but I do need to tuck it under the weather strip. All right, so here I have a little bit of overlap that I didn't want. So if it doesn't bother you, you can leave it, but I will give it a shot at cutting it. And by the way, maybe I didn't mention this before, but if you have issues during your installation, or if you need replacements, just send us an email and we're happy to help. I know that for many of you this will be the first such installation. I know full well that certain areas are tricky, so it's okay to mess up some pieces. Just email us and we'll help you. Oh, hold on, look at that discovery. Live on air. Okay, so you can obviously tuck this in if you go this way. So that trimming was unnecessary. There you go. Perfect. Let's do it on the other side. In that case, just tuck in from above and you can fold this edge very nicely. Well, that's great. Now let's tackle this bottom edge here. It has some bubbles near the edge, but I prefer to just reopen if it's so close to the edge than use the needle. But it's just a bit slow. It's a inconvenient location. And there are a few bubbles that I'll just poke with the diabetic needle. This is definitely a tool you should have for your installation. The next thing I wanted to show you is this edge of the rear door. So I'll first finish the top part here, and I'll begin here. Notice that this will overlap a little bit with the trim. That's intentional. You have to take it out, stretch a little, and do that curve here. Let's tuck it in. And now it nicely closes this side. This is why it was overlapping a little. Now let's score that edge. And I'll begin here. Just essentially squeegeeing with my fingers. And once I clear this curve, then I fold around the edge. If we didn't wrap it like that when you close your doors, let's say if we just wrapped it up until here, when you close your doors, you can kind of see this. So we decided to wrap the entire thing. And this one, you should pull from the other side. I'm still getting some pressure though. There you have it. Now let's do the bottom part, which is easier. Again, I'll pull a little bit up to match the lines so I don't have a gap here. And the same technique. And this is how we wrap the rear door. I have some creases on my edge wrap, so I'll just reopen slightly to fix them. And again, if the temperatures are colder, for me it's 80 something degrees, you may need to use a heat gun throughout all of the edge wrapping. I'm actually playing it by ear, where I see the edge is sticking nicely, folding nicely. I don't use a heat gun, but if I were doing this in the winter, for example, I would definitely need a heat gun for all of the edge wrappings. So that would add some time to the job. Keep that in mind. All right, we're on to the last piece of this installation, which is the bumper. I'll begin with the easy stuff. Now for this, I will score the edge with my finger and go in as much as I can, and then I will use the yellow edge tool. Hold on, that bubble is still here. So for some bubbles, you need to insert the needle and pull to remove the water. Now for this part, I'll first make this piece on the bottom to be sticking nicely, and then I will fold this piece over it. I had some water trapped here that just spilled out. It's a little bit, but let's see if I'll have any adhesion issues. And this being a more aggressive curve, it requires a heat gun. Just some bubbles here and there. That's quite normal on the bumper. It's a big piece. But again, with this diabetic needle, you can take care of them relatively quickly. And by the way, this particular edge and this edge, they're very much like the door handle situation. So every time you install this, it will be in a slightly different position. Pretty sure on the other side it's also going to be in a slightly different position. So if it's overhanging too much that you cannot fold it, you should just slice it. I'll actually start with a slice. Same goes for the door handles as a technique. I'll start with a slice here in the middle, and first see if I can fold it now. Yeah, so that slice in the middle did the trick. I see that here we'll likely have to slice a little bit as well. And by the way, we're just about to release this product based on customer feedback, based on this installation even, and future customer installations. We will be adjusting that model to make it easier and easier. Basically, all of these variations that we'll see through installations, if we always see the same thing happening over and over again, obviously the cut pattern can be improved and it will be changed. So what you get, depending on when you get it, might be slightly different, but in a better way. For example, if the next 5 installations, this always comes up so big that we need to slice it, we'll just move it a little bit on the model. I have a little bit of excess here. Perfect. I'm seeing a lot of bubbles here at the end. That's why I'm peeling off to just reapply it better. And now this is actually pretty easy. Just fold around. There is very little pressure here. It's very easy to do. Now, okay, let's do that toe hook port. So first I'll heat it up and I will try to put it inside as much as I can. Then I'll start removing some of the material, but I would much rather remove multiple times than remove more than I had to. Imagine ruining the whole bumper installation because of this. There you go. Let's finish this. So make sure there are no bubbles. Heat it up. And now let's just put it back. These wires go on this. And then, if I'm not mistaken, this is here. There you go. Now let's tackle this. Now here I got a wrinkle because it was sticking on the inside, but it wasn't sticking on the outside. So I'll need to find a way to reopen this. And for stuff like that, I highly recommend a tool like the one I'm holding. Now that's a bugger, but it's a real situation that can happen to you. I need to reopen a little bit more so I can straighten this. And the PPF is sticking onto itself at this point. So I need to separate that. There you go. Okay, now I'll be holding this and pulling up a little bit so that I can clear this curve. And then hopefully we can just stick it under. And this time it will work. Let's see. Well, it almost worked. Now it's wrinkled here, so we'll have to redo. And if I'm not lucky here, my next step would be to re-wet it with just some clean water to prevent it from sticking on itself. But let's see, I might need to reopen the entire top because of this. Let's see, that's a bugger. Let's see if... Oh, now we're getting lucky. Okay. One trick you can do if you need a little bit of extra space between the bumper and the headlight is jam your squeegee inside. It lifts it up just a little bit. But it gives you a little bit more area to work with. There you go. So as I was finishing this, something interesting happened and I wanted to show you because something similar might happen to you. Now what happened is that apparently I had to pull that entire piece a little bit higher during the initial alignment, which I didn't realize. And now that curve ended up being here. So as you can see, as a result, I have just a little bit of paint exposed. So if that happens to you, obviously you can reach out to us and we can send you a new piece. But first, that's not going to be free unless you have the DIY insurance. And second, that's going to be extra hassle for you to reinstall, especially on a big and complex piece like the bumper. So what I would do for our Model Y, and I suggest that you consider that as well if something like this is to happen to you, is to patch it. You have extra paint protection film. We provide it with each kit, which is exactly for that. It's for patching. And what that means is that you grab a piece and you cut it. Let's do some shape here. And then you put it where the problem is. Let's see if I got the shape right. Right. So the patch, if you look closely, is visible. It's a patch, but you really need to know where it is and you need to look closely to find it. Also, you can select, let's say you had the exact same issue. I'm just doing a tiny patch here to cover the paint, but if you're afraid, you can just cut a longer strip and just go from here all the way to here, and then it will pretty much be invisible. So I'm just saying that mistakes happen during installation. This is not a screen protector. This is much more complicated than this, as you can see. So mistakes happen, and it's good to know what options you have when you run into issues. Obviously, we're available to help, so just shoot us an email if you need any help. But I hope that everything I went through here would give you the right tool set to handle almost any situation that you may find yourself in. Before I let you go, I wanted to show you one last technique for fixing edges that might be lifting up after curing. Look at this. This is the front driver side fender, and I see that, you know, it's not sticking just right. And if I look at a certain angle, I can see the two pieces of the paint protection film. So how do we fix that? So for this, I would highly recommend you get the 3M Primer 94. And what I'll do is that I'll peel back just a tad bit. I'll apply the primer, and I'll actually apply some here as well. Give it a few seconds to dry up, and then let's warm up the paint protection film with a heat gun. And now try to reapply it here. And I'm doing a slight stretch just to cover that edge. And now I'm pushing as hard as I can. And now with the primer on, this is not going to let go. And you may have that in various places. Let me show you one more that I have. So another similar spot is the tops of the door edges. And if you can't access them for primer, you can try to push them again. But if that doesn't work, you need to reopen them and use the primer technique. But basically, it's a good idea to reinspect your installation a day after you're done. Leave the car to cure, and then go through it and fix any small issues that you can find. Here is another edge that's not sticking too well. This is the rear door, the outer edge, so I'll just reopen a little bit, apply primer. Also make sure to apply it on the inside where you want the PPF to grab. Then warm it up. And do a slight pull to clear that pressure. And now it will stick. And now you have a perfect edge. Now, I'm not saying you should be doing this for all the edges during the installation. I mean, you could, but I would think it's maybe extra work. What I prefer to do is to let the car just sit for a while to cure and then see what is picking up and fix that. All right, before we call this a day, let's do something really important. So this got to be matte cover, and essentially I'm changing this in settings to make this look more like what our car looks like now. All right guys, thank you for sticking with me for so long. Let me show you the end result. Now I'm just parking the car outside to give it some sunshine to cure. Sometimes during curing some edges will lift up. Just re-inspect your car and fix them. Of course, if you have any issues or any questions that I didn't cover in this video, please shoot us an email and we'll get back to you ASAP.